Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Informal back with another podcast. This is the Mr. Informal Podcast. Don't forget to add me on social media Instagram, Mr. Informal. That's MisterInformaln. And check out my website, mrinformal.com. MRINFORMAL. So don't forget, that's mrinformal.com. We got some articles and also stuff that I like. So we are on the 60th edition of the Mr. Informal Podcast. So we got 4 topics for today. I hope you are all having a wonderful, wonderful day. Super Bowl. And so the first topic would be J. Crew is actually selecting sustainable denim supplier. It's all overseas. Number 2, PETA is, now that they are finished with the anti-fur, they are setting their sights on wool. Number 3, Facebook selling data. As usual, why am I not surprised? And number 4, Apple is facing the bug of FaceTime. So, those are the 4 topics for today for the Mr. Informal Podcast, the 60th edition of the Mr. Informal Podcast. And so, let's go ahead and start out the podcast. So, the first topic for today is basically J. Crew having their denim line, or maybe the new denim line, to be manufactured in Vietnam. Vietnam is the first country for their sustainable denim. What do they really mean by sustainable denim? Does it mean that it's environmentally friendly? Is it does it follow the procedures and rules of human rights? Well, for the most part, it's both. But what does it really mean in the long run? Here's what I don't understand about this, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with a company trying to correct its mistake from the past and actually trying to get along with the times, having a fair wage, having a good factory to work with in terms of chemicals, in terms of actually being environmentally friendly, recycling, and also having a proper and safe environment to work. What I don't understand is, why did this take so long? Why? I mean, J. Crew been in the business for a long time, and yet it took them this long just to find a sustainable denim factory? Are you kidding me? You see, I've always say that I am against companies who do not make the environment, the workplace safe. Not only that, if they don't recycle or they don't do any type of sustainability or they don't practice ethics and sustainability, then I'm not with that company. You can say whatever you want, the price would increase so and so, but the fact is that a workplace is a workplace, such as a home. There's always going to be things that you will not foresee. You may trip, you may get your hand injured, you may get cuts and all of that, but that's part of it. When you're working with something, with metal, with your bare hands, something will happen. But when you have a first aid kit right next to you or somewhere close, you will have signs such as wet floor. You are actually recycling the water that you're dyeing the fabrics from. You're actually creating a safe work environment, or you try to create a safe environment and you treat your employees fairly, then there's nothing wrong with that. But going back to J. Crew and trying to have a sustainable denim, I don't believe in sustainable denim. There's no such thing as sustainable denim. In the basic essence of sustainable denim, all it just means that this factory is creating denim that practices environmental friendly chemicals or products, environmental workplace, fair wage, whatever you want to call it. That's all it is. And every denim company, every denim factory, jean makers, whatever, should be all sustainable. It's not even that hard. How hard can it be to be sustainable? I mean, every year or every 6 months, you should have a inspector check the workplace. You should have the machines fairly working. Check the machines carefully and inspect it. I mean, you should look at how much waste you're creating. Are you able to recycle? Like, come on, it's not even that hard. And I'm not just picking on J.Crew here. It just so happens that J.Crew is on the topic. But every company should practice this. Every company. Don't just ignore it, because if you ignore it and then someone snitches on you, someone tells on you, the amount of damage it will create is more than the repair that you could have done when it should have been repaired at that time. But I truly hope that this is a good step for J.Crew and also other companies too, and they learn from their mistakes and they can get on with the times. And I don't want them to market that these denims was made sustainable. No, I don't want them to do that. Just create a good fitting jean that's 100% cotton, no spandex. J.Crew and every other's talking to you, especially you, Levi's, that just focus on the craft. Just focus on your goods. No need for marketing. No need for this sustainable. No need for this ethical jean stuff. None. Just make it. Don't fake it. And people will buy it. Alright, so on to the second topic. So, I was reading an article from fashionista.com. PETA. If you don't know, PETA basically stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. So, the article states that after decades of fake blood flinging and countless protests, 2018 was finally the year that fashion began doing away with the fur in earnest. The result, a combination of activism, educated consumerism, and companies eager to court younger, socially conscious shoppers without risking much in the way for the bottom line. So, PETA has set their sights a new goal, fighting against the use of wool. But fighting against the use of wool can be quite different than fighting fur. Yes, it is, because wool is just basically shaving off the sheep. It's not killing animals. It's not skinning them. You're just basically taking out the fur or the hair from their body, and then they're good to go. So it's totally different animal. Nobody's getting killed. No animals are getting killed here. Okay, that's the word. No animal or no sheep or goats are even getting killed here. So here's the thing. So PETA claims there is no humane way to shear sheep for wool. In its efforts to shed light on how material is harvested, the International Animal Rights Group has launched group against retailers such as Forever 21, J.Crew, and Patagonia. I am surprised that Patagonia is on their list, and the worst part is, if you read up the article, it says, for example, Byrne says that part of the PETA investigation included looking at farms to which supplies companies, including Patagonia, a brand which publicly emphasizes the use of materials that are environmentally and socially responsible. Unbelievable. Wow. And it also goes on with Nike, Burberry, Kering. So basically, there are sheeps out there that are mishandled. What I mean by mishandled is people take the shear, and instead of actually being careful with the shear, they just like basically glide the shear on their skin. And so basically the sheeps or goats are getting cuts. And I do agree with that. I do agree with PETA on that case. But I believe that we shouldn't have to do away with wool. What's going to replace wool? And here's the thing that bothers me about this article. Not the actual article, but PETA, okay? So in another article it says, PETA asks a British village to change name from wool to vegan wool. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Wool to vegan wool. Why does it matter? So, it's a two-part, okay? Wool has been harvested for so many years, even before I was born. 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, even before America was born. Okay? And I do believe that there are factories out there, or even farms, that mishandle sheep and goats to harvest their wool. I do believe that. Because if you're injuring the animal, okay, then we got a problem here. But if you are actually properly taking care of the animal and not hurting the animal while the harvesting of the wool, then what's the problem? No animal is getting killed here. So what do I think of PETA trying to go anti-wool? Or maybe they're not going anti-wool. Maybe they're just trying to let people know that, hey, you got to stop these practices. You got to stop abusing these animals. If you're going to harvest wool, then at least properly handle the animal in the correct way. I could agree with that. I would agree with that. But if PETA wants to do away with wool, then I don't think that's going to be possible. To me, wool is such a essential fabric, protein fabric, or protein hair, that in the winter it keeps you warm. I think people should need it. Not only that, wool sheds wool anyways. I mean, sheep sheds wool anyway. So what are you gonna do with the wool was shed? So basically the same thing. Then you have it, then you create fabric out of it. Alright, so for the third topic on this 60th edition of the Mr. Informal Podcast, basically Facebook harvesting and selling data. So in the recent articles, there's going to be a lot of articles talking about it. Facebook has been basically paying teenagers $10 a month to basically harvest their data without their parents' consent and permission. Not only that, as you know, they had a recent data breach with that Cambridge University mess. So it's getting to the point where I'm just want to delete all my pictures except one profile pictures from Facebook. And I don't even want to write anything in Facebook. I mean, Facebook is what, $1 trillion company? Billion, trillion, whatever it may be. It has a lot of money, and yet it has to please its stockholders and its board of members to make sure that they're actually making profits or they're growing. But this is one of those cases where, do you really need to do that to harvest data, especially kids' data, and paying them $10 a month? I mean, that is just desperate. I mean, there should be other ways. Maybe Facebook Marketplace. There is, but they're not marketing well, and they're not making it a viable option to Amazon, to eBay, to Craigslist, or even other smaller sites. I mean, what about Facebook Business? Oh, wait a minute. There's LinkedIn. Instagram. Oh, wait a minute. Facebook owns Instagram. But then again, they could even do something. I mean, a company shouldn't have to go through that. I mean, right now, Facebook is so stagnant that they're desperate to do anything just to sell data, sell consumer data to advertisement, to companies. That way they can actually have their algorithm cater ads to you. I mean, but why does Facebook need to harvest teenagers? I mean, why not harvest people who are 18 and over? I mean, there's a trillion people in the world. Why not just do that? Why do you need to go through kids? My problem is not Facebook harvesting data from people. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But what my problem is the desperation, the ways that they have to harvest data or find ways to harvest data. I mean, is it that much of a desperation where Facebook needs to go through that? So I'm pretty sure that there's a million people out there have already probably quit Facebook. Maybe they're gonna go through other type of social media. I mean, I don't blame them with all these tactics that Facebook has done, and I truly hope that Facebook gets a fine, not just a slap, but I'm talking about big fine, whether it be a $1 billion fine, $2 billion fine, I don't care. But they really need to answer a lot of questions. And so I always say that people should just visit Facebook in their computer. People shouldn't visit Facebook in their cell phone, because that's the only way you could minimize data harvesting by Facebook. Okay, last topic for today is Apple facing FaceTime bug. So I'm sure you've heard it in the news. Basically, when you call FaceTime in Apple to Apple products, you can hear their voice before their faces shows up. And this has been a bug that Apple's trying to fix. They're apologizing for it. And so people are in an uproar that it's facing privacy violations, which I agree with. Because what if you're talking to somebody, let's say you're a lawyer, or you're a lawyer and you have a client and you're trying to FaceTime the plaintiff or the defense, whatever you want to call it, and they hear you talking in the background without even seeing your face. You know, that could be an evidence. So I really don't understand it, okay? So my take on this is that it has to be fixed ASAP. But the bigger picture here is that, do any of these companies lately try not to test their products? I mean, are they off somewhere on their own in a well-connected place, or even a phone that's so clean up that you'll only have all the basic apps, and that's how they test it? It's not even a thorough test. It's one of those tests that, okay, we're gonna test it on the best scenario as possible, and then that's it. And they think that that's how consumers are, which it isn't. Consumers always have a lot of apps, always doing something with their phone, always having a lot of data in their phone, contacts, pictures, so and so. And then when you call, and sometimes when they call, they don't have a good reception. And yet, here we are. I mean, did anybody not catch this? I mean, is it just a single-to-single person FaceTime here? I do believe that there's not just an Apple error here. I'm not talking about the FaceTime. I'm just talking about in general testing of electronics. It's not just Apple. But for the case of this topic, I do believe that Apple is at fault here, and they apologize. And I don't believe they're BS apologies, because I know for a fact that they're not even considerate, and they're not even sorry for their apologies. They just did that just to basically meet the public demands and uproars, and also users who are facing these bugs. I mean, how much more does a company like Apple, who owns iOS and control iOS, control the devices. I mean, it's basically almost like an in-house company, everything in-house. And yet, for some reason, they still have this bug. This is one of those things that pass through the cracks. And obviously, they also had that battery throttling issue. They also had softwares that's basically not slow down the battery, but basically updates that slows down the phone from the processor, from the RAM. Basically, the phone is useless. It's breaking the phone. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't usually use FaceTime. I don't even have an Apple device. And when I do, let's say an iPad, yeah, I use it sometimes. It's helpful. But for this to go through the cracks of inspection and quality control is just maddening. It's just inexcusable. So I truly hope that Apple learns this lesson. Maybe they need to revise their quality control inspections process and procedures, whatever it may be, whatever they have, because obviously their procedures is not that thorough. Because if it was, this wouldn't have to go through it. Not only that, they should be testing this with multiple people, not just 4 people. It should be at least 10. At least 10. And so, I'm sure they're going to fix this, but we'll see how long it will be fixed. Because it's not a matter of how long, it's a matter of when. Or no. That was wrong. It's not a matter of how they can fix it. It's a matter of when they can fix it. There you go. And so that basically it for the 60th edition of the Mr. Informal Podcast. I hope you learned something today. If you have any further comments below, let me know down in the comments below. Write those up, whatever it may be. Don't forget to add me on social media, Instagram, MisterInformal, and also MrInformal.com, MrInformal.com. I will see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.